But I got hit with the TikTok when I was, over the holiday, and I was sitting there, and it was a business owner, a restaurant owner, and he was talking about he had somebody ask him like, hey man, I can't afford to pay $16 for a sandwich or whatever it is. I'm going to play this TikTok, and then I'm going to talk to you about not only accountability, but ownership, and it ties in with accountability because it has to do with business ownership. But I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. Let me bring this up right here. Where are you? There you are. And okay, check this out. This is a good, this is a post off of TikTok, I believe. So we're going to check this out. This is about a minute long. Here we go.
You want to know why your sandwich costs so much at the local restaurant? My friend Dan sent me a text the other day. He was at one of my restaurants. He said, Brian, I just ordered a BLT at $16. You realize it's just bread, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. I said, yeah, Dan, but let me give you some restaurant perspective. In today's economy, my rent is $20,000 a month. My utilities are $6,000 a month. And my labor is currently running about $60,000 a month. That's at 28%. So I'm in for $86,000 a month before I sell a single sandwich. At a 32% food cost, I have about $11 profit in that sandwich. That means I have to sell 93,800 sandwiches a year, or 257 a day, just to break even and make no money. 1.5 million in revenue, and I don't make a dime. That's why your sandwich costs so much. That's a reflection on our economy.
Okay, so I thought that clip was really interesting for several reasons. And I'm going to get into this. Is something I've talked about with friends of mine for a long time. I grew up, my father bought his business in 1983 when I was 8, around that time, right? So my dad basically started, he bought an industrial equipment, like he sold dollies, casters, things like that. He started selling there, I want to say in like 77, 78, 79, 80, something like that. So he sold for a few years. They tried to sell the company. He ended up buying the company. And I say all that because I grew up with a business owner as my father. Spent a lot of time with my dad. We were a close family. Still spend a lot of time with my dad. But I'd mentioned before, I grew up on a farm. And so we were 30 minutes from anywhere. So my dad would drive me to school. He'd drive me to work. I started working when I was 11 years old. But I was in the car with my dad for an hour a day some days. And then, we'd eat dinner as a family all the time and all those things. And so I always heard a business owner's perspective on things. And this actually plays in a lot with accountability, because I think that whether you're talking to consumers or customers or prospects, or whether you're talking to employees, which is kind of who this is more geared towards, I feel like there is a very small amount of people, a small percentage of people who actually think like a business owner. And I think that's important. I had seen, there's a guy named, I think his name's Nick Huber. I think he's the Sweaty Startup guy. Great follow on all the socials, wherever you look at stuff. And he talks about the small percentage of people that actually are cut out for being entrepreneurs or for owning a business. And he's right. You know what I mean? I think that was one of the things that I disagree with Gary Vee on, where he's like, everybody should be an owner, everybody should be an entrepreneur, blah, blah. It's like, that's not true. Working for yourself is definitely its own thing. For me, it was easy because I was wired that way. I think it's because I grew up with my dad, and I learned I was good enough at selling out of the gate that I could sell, whether it was me playing guitar, I could sell that service enough to make a living, or whether it was me running social media accounts, I could sell that to make a living. But I think that the one thing that a lot of people are missing is an ownership perspective, regardless of where they work or where they shop. And I think it's important to think like an owner, whether you are one or not, or at least understand where money comes from. Because most people they don't understand, like, money comes from their boss. No, like that's not where money comes from. If you're working for the government, the money comes from the government. No, it doesn't. The government, they print the money, right? Which it might have gotten us into the situation we're in right now, where everything costs 5 times as much as it did 5 years ago. But that's not where the money comes from. The money comes from us. The money comes from the people, right? And so when you are working at a business, and I see this all the time because I'm dealing with business owners, and some of these people have done very well for themselves, right? But the reality of it is that the guys that I work for, the people that I work for, have earned it themselves. None of these people have had this business handed to them. They've all struggled, they've failed, they've taken L after L and then taken W after W. But the problem is a lot of people, when you go to work for a company, let's say you go to work for a company that has 30 people working at it. Say they're doing $30 million a year, whatever, $20 million a year. You just think that owner just has money. They're rich. Like, slow down. Now, maybe they do have money. Maybe they are rich. Maybe they're good with money. But the reality of it is that money is coming from somewhere. That money's coming from somewhere. So whatever, and this is the beauty of having a W-2 job, of having a job where you go and you get your 2 weeks vacation, you get your whatever benefits you get. The beauty of that is you don't have to think like an owner. You don't have to stress about, the things that aren't your job. But the owner thinks about everything. So when you think like an owner, you are incredibly valuable to the team you're on because you're thinking about not only your job, but everybody else's job and all the things that have to get done. When you walk by a piece of trash, do you pick it up and put it in the trash can, or do you wait for the janitor to do it? Right? The owner is picking up that piece of trash and putting it in the trash can. That's thinking like an owner to me. That's small. It can be that small, but it goes all the way up, right? And understanding that regardless of what your position is in the machine that you work for, it doesn't stop at the owner. It stops at the outside of the world. Where's the money coming from? Someone is hiring you to do something, to perform a service or to deliver a product or whatever that is. So if you can start thinking outside of yourself a little bit, if you start thinking of, and I know people that have started businesses and been like, this is not for me, and they've gone back to work for somebody else, and their perspective is invaluable because they understand the things that the owners or the ownership has done to create a space for them to just do one job. And that is, you have to do a lot. Like, especially if you're bootstrapping a business. Like my business, I do 10 different jobs. And it doesn't make me a superhero, but I understand everything that has to get done because I've done everything. And I'm in the process of starting to hire those things out. But my whole theory on this was I want to get things built up so that I can do them well enough so that I can oversee them effectively. And that should be the way things work where you work. Now, if you've got someone who's incompetent above you, that's a different ball of wax. It's a whole different situation. But I think that there is a very small percentage of people in this country, in this world, that think like an owner. And I think that if you can become one of those people, I think that you'll boost your own value. You'll make yourself more valuable. And I hope if your superior, whoever it is, if it's a manager, if it's an owner, if it's a boss, whatever, hopefully you'll be rewarded for that. You should be rewarded for it because it means the world to me. I've only got a couple people underneath me and they're rock solid. And when they see a mistake, they fix it and they tell me. And it's the best thing in the world. Having people on your team that look out for mistakes that might not be theirs. And they cut them off at the pass. So thinking like an owner, it's accountability, but it's accountability for other people on your team. It's looking around the corner. It's not just staying siloed in the easy thing. So I think if you can think like an owner, it's going to, like I said, it's going to make you more valuable to your team. It's going to make you, I think you're just going to be better off in the world if you do that.